Chaos, controversy, and betrayal. The Singapore Grand Prix has just exploded into one of the biggest stories of the season. What was supposed to be McLaren's shining moment has turned into a nightmare of tension and mistrust. And now, Oscar Piastri and his mentor Mark Webber have dropped a massive bombshell, calling out the team and Lando Norris over what they claim was an unfair and unforgivable incident. Buckle up, because this could change everything for McLaren. From the very moment the lights went out, the stage was set for chaos. The narrow streets of Singapore, the heat, the humidity, and the pressure of a championship battle created the perfect storm. Lando Norris, starting fifth, saw an opening in front. His teammate, Oscar Piastri, was up ahead in third, focused on defending his line. Then, in the blink of an eye, it happened. Norris made a daring move, brushing Max Verstappen's Red Bull before sliding into Piastri. The impact was light but symbolic. McLaren versus McLaren, trust versus ambition. Both cars continued the race, but the damage was already done. Not to the machinery, but to the relationship that had carried the team this far. Over the radio, Piastri's voice came through calm, yet edged with disbelief. "That wasn't very team-like," he said. It wasn't rage, it was disappointment. The kind that cuts deeper. He was giving his team a chance to make it right, to acknowledge what had happened. But the silence that followed spoke louder than words. Minutes passed. The pit wall's eventual reply was measured and dismissive. "We're looking into it." And later, the final verdict. No action. Lando had to avoid Verstappen. "We'll review it after the race." To Oscar Piastri, it was a betrayal disguised as protocol. His reply came sharp, frustrated, and painfully human. "That's not fair." Those three words carried the weight of a season's worth of tension. Because this wasn't just about Singapore. This was about something that had been building inside McLaren for months. The first cracks appeared back in Hungary, where Piastri led the team's charge. He was in position for a breakthrough victory, until strategy calls began to shift in Lando Norris's favor. Pit timing, tire choices, and communication all leaned toward one side. Norris took the win. Piastri took the hit. Then came Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. Another brutal test of loyalty and trust. Oscar Piastri once again led the charge on track, calm, focused, and in control. But just as victory seemed within reach, the call came from the pit wall. Let Lando through. A pit stop delay had hurt Lando Norris, and now McLaren wanted to balance it out. Piastri protested, reminding them that pit errors were part of racing, not something to rewrite with team orders. But once again, he obeyed. And once again, his frustration was brushed aside. By the time the cars lined up in Singapore, Piastri's patience was gone. The collision at Turn 1 wasn't just bad luck. It was the breaking point in a season where every team decision seemed one-sided. Outwardly, McLaren looked invincible, but behind the scenes, unity was quietly collapsing. Tom Stallard, Piastri's race engineer, was caught in the middle of it all. The voice of reason in a storm of politics. He balanced his words carefully, trying to manage a furious driver and a nervous team leadership. But there's only so much diplomacy can do when the issue isn't mechanical. It's emotional. The truth was simple. McLaren had prioritized stability over fairness, and that decision was now tearing them apart. After the race, the contrast between the two drivers could not have been starker. Oscar Piastri, still visibly frustrated, chose restraint. He called the clash unfortunate, but his silence afterward said everything. Lando Norris, on the other hand, brushed it off with a shrug. "It was slippery, but that's racing," he told reporters. To him, it was just another on-track skirmish. To Piastri, it was proof that aggression and favoritism had replaced respect and equality. And the consequences are far from small. Oscar Piastri's lead in the Drivers' Championship dropped to just 22 points, while Max Verstappen, quietly consistent, closed the gap to 63 points. With 6 races remaining, every decision, every overtake, and every pit call could decide who wears the crown. For McLaren, it's not just about pace anymore. It's about politics, perception, and preservation. The promise from team management to review the incident after the race sounded more like damage control than genuine accountability. Behind closed doors, the question that everyone at Woking is asking is this: how do you manage two champions in one team without losing both? Because in Formula One, trust is currency, and once it's spent, there's no buying it back. Inside McLaren, whispers of favoritism have now turned into open tension. Every instruction is questioned. Every pit call is dissected. What was once a united front is now a fragile truce. And the biggest risk is not losing a championship. It's losing the spirit that made them champions in the first place. As the season moves forward, the rivalry between Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris has become more than a subplot. It's the defining story of the year. The garage that once buzzed with laughter and lighthearted competition now feels colder, quieter. Even when they sit side by side in press conferences, their smiles don't quite reach their eyes. The friendship that began with mutual respect has evolved into silent warfare, fought through strategy, team radio, and public words. For the fans, it's electrifying drama. For McLaren, it's a ticking time bomb, because history has shown what happens when teammates turn rivals. See, from Hamilton versus Rosberg to Senna versus Prost. And those battles always come with collateral damage. The Singapore Grand Prix was supposed to be a celebration of how far McLaren had come. Instead, it became a warning of how fragile success can be when ego, ambition, and fairness collide. Oscar Piastri wanted equality. Lando Norris wanted victory. McLaren wanted harmony. But in the ruthless world of Formula One, you rarely get all three. So as the dust settles and engines roar toward the next race, one question remains: can McLaren survive the storm they created? Or will this rivalry tear them apart for good? What do you think? Was Oscar Piastri right to feel betrayed? Or was it just racing? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into Formula One's fiercest battles. Thanks for watching.